Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. In this video today, I wanted to talk about G2. They are a very polarizing, very interesting and weird team in so many ways, just in general. Obviously, G2's been one of the better teams in the LEC, and that's probably even an understatement over the past couple years. And with that, you're going to get a lot of bandwagon fans. You're going to get a lot of people who want to hate on them and want to see them knocked down a peg. You're going to get a lot of people that like Carlos and his antics and his personality and the things he does. And you're going to get some people who don't like it so much. And G2 just has a ton of people going both ways in general, but then even looking at this 2022 season, it has been very up and down for G2 in so many ways. Obviously, kicking Reckless, getting rid of Mickey, getting rid of Wonder, bringing in some new players. I believe in the LEC regular season in the spring split, they finished like third, fourth, somewhere in there. You know, they weren't at the top, but they weren't bad. They were a good, solid team. But not many people, I don't think, thought that they were going to win the title. They go on a crazy run. They win the title. And then at MSI, they, have some great wins. I believe they take down T1. They go 6-0 against Evil Geniuses, who ends up looking like a respectable enough team. But then also at MSI, they get 3-0'd in the semifinals. They end up losing to some of the minor region teams. Like, they're just up and down all over the place. And you have some people who are like, hey, G2, they're amazing still. They're the LEC champions. LEC is awesome. G2 is going to be great again. And then some people being like, hey, this was kind of a mid team in spring. They kind of looked mid at times at MSI. Who really knows? So they're just super interesting. And again, starting out summer split 3-0 in the super week, and then now this most recent week going 0-2. Some people are wondering, is it time to worry? Is it time to panic? That's what I want to talk about a little bit. So headed into this 1 week break in the LEC and the LCS right now, you can see G2 is currently in tied for 4th place at 4-3. I believe they have lost to Mad Lions, but have beaten Team Vitality. So you could have them in 5th, but they're somewhere between 4th and 6th. They're only a game back of the 3 teams in 1st place. But again, there are 3 teams ahead of them right now. And at the end of the day, obviously only 3 teams are going to be going to Worlds from the LEC. Now, I'm not saying that G2 is, not a favorite to go to Worlds at this point, only being a game behind, but there is some concern because there is a clump. There is 6 teams that are all clumped together, and really 8 teams are, 2 games apart if you look at Astralis and Misfits as well. I really am not considering Astralis and Misfits in the mix at all, but in those 6 teams, they all have some things going for them. They all have strengths. They all have weaknesses. They all have a case to maybe why they can be one of the world's representatives for Europe going into the 2022 World Championships, obviously. And again, this little break is going to be good for some teams. It's going to be bad for some teams. But we look at G2, who this weekend, this past weekend that just happened on Friday, they lost to Mad Lions. Like I said, I don't know if the stuff's going to pop up for this game, but this was a 7-2 Twitch game from Unforgiven, 1-16 from Kaiser. I mean, this was just a crazy game. 22 kills in total for Mad Lions. G2 wasn't able to get much done. They got 3 towers, no inhibs, no barons, 3 dragons. And then end up, losing a 13,000 gold lead or something like that. Caps dies 7 times on Zoe. I mean, this is just a real banger of a game. Tons of fighting, tons of craziness, but Mad Lions did look really good in it. But hey, best of ones. You're going to lose some games every once in a while, but we still had El Clasico on Saturday, obviously, where G2 would end up losing to Fnatic, and again, kind of getting shellacked around. They got 2 kills. They got 4 towers, no inhibs, no barons, 2 dragons. This time it was Yankos, with a 0-5, Caps with a 1-1-1, Flockhead 0-3, Broken Blade 1-4, and Fnatic just looked really good with Hillsang popping off, Razork popping off, Humanoid and Upside going deathless, Twitch giving G2 troubles once again, and hey, so people are just wondering, is this time to panic? G2, they're tied for 4th place. They're 0-2. They lose to Fnatic. They lose to Mad Lions. These are 2 teams that are already in that conversation. You have Excel looking good. You have Vitality, who hasn't looked great, but they're still super talented. And honestly, Perks is having a really good split right now. You have Rogue, who was good last split as well. And G2, who, even though at their best, they probably looked their highs have been higher than any team in Europe throughout this year. Again, that run in the spring playoffs was insane. Some of the victories they were able to pull off at MSI were insane. Caps looking so good in some of those games. But overall, their kind of neutral level has been just kind of meh. They've been okay. They've been good, but they haven't been consistently great. So is this, time to panic? Is this cause for concern? And I get why people are saying that, but honestly, I don't think so too much. I do still think that this G2 team is very, very talented. And in any playoff situations, in any playoff scenarios, I'm still going to be riding out Caps and Jankos. I'm still taking them against a lot of the other mid-young duos, but also just against a lot of the other veterans. These guys are as experienced as anybody. They're as kind of gritty as anybody. They can pull out a big game in a big moment, especially now that we have crowds back and all that stuff. And obviously, those are some of the same things people said about G2 last year when they ultimately came up short. But we are still just 7 games into the season. And I also think there is still, potentially some MSI hangover going on. That's always a really, really hard thing to kind of gauge and channel and all this stuff. I think G2 is a team that, should hopefully benefit from this week off. I think this will kind of, be able to revitalize them, refocus them. They'll get rolling. Another thing to keep in mind is that, yes, G2 is 4-3, but they have had one of the hardest schedules in the LEC so far because, 7 games in, you've played 7 teams. You haven't played all 9 teams yet. Not everyone has had the same strength of schedule. Not everyone has played a full round robin. And I think this is something that a lot of people haven't been talking about. If you look at G2 next week, or 2 weeks from now, I guess, G2 is going to be playing up against SK, and they're going to be playing up against Misfits. And again, if you look at the LEC standings, Misfits 3-4, they're in 8th place. SK, they are 1-6, they are tied for 9th place. Those are 2 of the bottom 3 or 4 teams in the league right now, which means that G2 has played everybody else. Yes, they've already played BDS, but then everybody else has been a top team. They still have 2 of the bottom teams left to play, which means that their 4-3 is more significant than some other teams. They have wins against Excel, they have wins against Rogue, they beat Vitality. Yes, they did lose to Mad Lions and Fnatic, but they have also beat some top teams as well, and their losses are to 2 pretty good teams. Yes, they did lose a random game to Team BDS as well, and that's BDS's only win on the season, but I'm not saying G2 is worse than them or anything like that. So yes, MSI hangover is possible. Also, a lot of veterans who maybe don't care as much about the regular season. Our Captain Yanko's going to go all out for some summer regular season games at this point. I really don't think so. I think the off week will be good for them, and they've had a really, really tough schedule. But then again, still, the thing that kind of concerns me the most about this G2 team, it's a good and a bad thing, is that they really live and die by Caps. Caps carried them a lot of the games through their spring playoff run. He carried them a lot of their games at MSI. And when Caps goes, absolutely God mode, that's when this G2 team can beat any team in the world. But if Caps is only good, if Caps is just regular, if he's great, if he's the best player in the world, they can beat anybody. But if he's just even below that, this G2 team does seem to struggle to win consistently. And I think some of that is still the fact that Flockhead is still kind of a really, really big question mark for me. I'm still not ready to say that this guy's a top 3 or maybe even a top 4 AD carry in Europe. He's just kind of middle of the pack. He's just kind of average now. Broken Blade can be hit and miss still at times as well. And Jankos, he's known as like the First Blood King or whatever. And maybe that hasn't been his moniker quite as much over the past couple of splits, but he has not been getting as much done in the early games as well. And there's just a lot of good teams in Europe this split, and that's good and bad. It means it's good practice for G2, iron sharpens iron and all that stuff, but it also is going to make this thing very, very competitive, but it's also going to make this LEC run fun to watch throughout the rest of the split. I was taking a look at some of Caps' stats right now, and he's honestly looking really, really good still. I mean, he looks good by the eye test. Again, like I said, he's not like absolutely disgustingly dominant right now, but he's still been very, very good. He is the first in kills by a significant margin, 37. Next guy, 23. I mean, that is just kind of ridiculous. That makes me even wonder if there's like an error or something, because it's just a crazy amount of kills more than the next person there. He does have a lot of deaths, though, which is just showing how bloody these G2 games are. They're willing to bang, they're willing to scrap, which is also exciting and fun to watch. Gold differential at 10. He is 4th in the league. You can see Perks just really, really dominant in those lane phases right now. XP, Caps falls off a little bit, but then also you can see his damage per minute. Caps is number 1. So he has the most kills. He's doing the most damage per minute. Yeah, he's maybe dying a lot, but Caps is definitely still looking really, really good, fun, and exciting. And as long as Caps is in that really good, really strong form, it's hard for me to bet against G2 G2 so much. So, am I excited that G2 is going into the break on a 0-2 week? No, absolutely not. And it is a little bit concerning. But if you're ever going to go 0-2, maybe right before the break, maybe coming off MSI is the best time to do it. G2 has really, really easy 2 tune-up games next week, where they should hopefully be able to get their confidence and momentum going into the second half of the round robin, take that into summer playoffs, take that into Worlds. Ultimately, I still don't think that this team is going to be like a world title contender. I don't expect this team to be in like semifinals or anything like that, just because I think BB's still a little too inconsistent, and like I said, I'm still not totally sold on Flockhead, at least at this stage in his career. Maybe next year, maybe he continues to develop, we'll have to wait and see, but I do think that this G2 team is going to be a title contender in the LEC, and I think they're absolutely going to be a team who, if they show up, have good meta reads, get a favorable group, and show up on a couple days and a couple best of ones, could definitely get out of groups at Worlds and maybe win a game or two in quarterfinals. We'll have to wait and see. But overall, I'm not ready to panic if I'm a G2 fan just yet. This weekend was not fun, but I still think, at this point, I would still guess that things are going to be okay, and I do think that they will still be headed to Worlds at the end of the day. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate that so much. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about G2. Are you worried about them? Are you panicking? Are you, feeling good about what they've done so far in the summer split? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe, stay up to date on all my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.